Why did Uzzah die after touching the Ark of the Covenant? The story of Uzzah, the man who died after touching the Ark of the Covenant, is recorded in the Old Testament. It is a passage that raises many questions about God's justice and the sanctity of sacred objects. After the Ark of the Covenant was taken by the Philistines and later returned, it was stored in Abinadab's house for many years. King David, wanting to bring it to Jerusalem, organized a great celebration to transport the Ark. The Ark of the Covenant was an extremely sacred object for the people of Israel. It symbolized the presence of God among his people and had specific instructions on how it should be transported. Instead of following God's instructions that the Ark should be carried on the shoulders of the Levites using poles, David and his group placed the Ark on a cart drawn by oxen, similar to the method the Philistines had used to return it. During transportation, when they arrived at a place called Terah of Nam, the oxen stumbled and the Ark seemed to be about to fall. Uzzah, who was accompanying the transport, instinctively reached out to hold the Ark and prevent it from falling. However, as soon as he touched the Ark, he was immediately struck by God and died. Uzzah's death was sudden and shocking. To understand why this happened, it is important to consider some key points. The holiness of God. The Ark of the Covenant was not just an ordinary object. It represented the presence of God, and divine holiness demands absolute reverence. God had established very clear rules about how the Ark was to be treated and who could approach it. Only the consecrated Levites, using poles to carry it, could transport it without touching it directly. Uzzah's act of touching the Ark violated these sacred instructions. Lack of obedience. The transportation of the Ark in a cart, rather than on the shoulders of the Levites, was a serious failure to follow God's commands. This deviation from the instructions was already a sign of disobedience, and Uzzah, by touching the Ark, participated in this transgression. Good intention does not justify action. Although Uzzah acted with good intentions, trying to protect the Ark, the problem was not the intention, but the action. Even with the desire to protect the sacred, he could not violate the divine rules. This teaches us that in our relationship with God, obedience is fundamental, and good intentions cannot nullify the holiness and orders established by him. Reverence for God's holiness. The story of Uzzah reminds us of the seriousness of God's holiness and how we should treat him with deep respect. The instructions God gives are not arbitrary, but reflect his holy and righteous nature. Obedience is essential. David and his group did not obey God's instructions for transporting the Ark, and this disobedience resulted in tragic consequences. Obedience to God's word is more important than any attempt to improvise. The sovereignty of God. God is sovereign, and his ways are often beyond human understanding. Uzzah's death may seem harsh, but it reflects the seriousness of divine law and the importance of respecting God's holiness.